Kingsfield, the Ancient City. First released all the way back in 2001 for the PlayStation 2. And for those that don't know, the Kingsfield games are the spiritual predecessors of the Souls games, both of the demon and dark variety. However, in terms of gameplay, they don't resemble the Souls games all that much. Rather, they are like the Souls games in the way that world building and storytelling is done, with very few things directly told to you. For example, here in Kingsfield 4, we are told that you need to deliver an idol back to where it belongs. Apparently, the moving of this item from where it belongs has caused the world to start sliding into ruin. And as you explore the world, it becomes clear that it used to be a better place not all that long ago. Almost as if a golden age has suddenly and catastrophically come to an end. You meet very few other characters, most of them looking downtrodden and outright sickly. Throughout the game, these other characters will at times ask you to do things. Sometimes that will lead to rewards. Other times they die while you're doing the exact thing they wanted. And it's not a timing issue, it's just how things unfold. You'll find many different areas in this game that all look as if they have a story to tell. But, as I stated, there's very little direct information. You will have to infer what's going on in these areas for the most part, with just a few words from the sparse NPCs, maybe a little information and an item description. It all makes for a world and setting that is somewhat mysterious, quite dangerous, and thoroughly melancholy throughout. As mentioned previously, the gameplay is absolutely nothing like a Souls game. As the game starts, you have effectively nothing, just the idol you're meant to return. This is a first-person RPG, and right at the beginning there are death pits you can fall into. I think this is meant as a warning to teach you to tread carefully. And right here at the beginning you need to be especially careful. As I said, you start with nothing. No weapon, no armor, you just have the idol. And you can't do anything with that till the very end of the game. But with just a little exploring, you'll find yourself a weapon and some very rudimentary armor. And finding things is going to be the primary way you get most items in this game. As while there are a few shops across the world, their prices for anything you'd actually find useful are usually extreme. Outside of maybe buying a few healing items and a magic crystal or two, there's not much you should realistically buy from shopkeepers. As most of the items that the shopkeepers are selling, you will be able to find out in the world. In fact, you may at times be wondering why the game is giving you so many weapons and armor alternatives. But there is a reason for it. Armor and weapons do degrade with use. But the rate at which items degrade is actually fairly slow. But as they degrade, even though it is slow, their stats do slowly start decreasing. So if you're looking to keep your best possible defense and offense, you will be switching items frequently. However, there is a reason you may wish to keep using a weapon even if you found a better replacement. You can actually level up the weapons in this game. After finishing off enough monsters with a given weapon, it will level up and become more effective. And I guess this is meant to mean that your character is becoming more effective at using the weapon. And this leveling up can happen twice on any given weapon. But it does take a while, and by the time you see that second level up, the weapon will be pretty close to broken. Fairly late into the game, you do encounter a character that can repair your armor and weapons. So if there's a weapon you're fond of and have put a lot of time into, it's worthwhile to keep it in your inventory. There is no weight limit for your inventory in this game. Combat in this game is a fairly slow affair. Enemies will chase you to a certain point, but they all have an invisible boundary they won't cross. So you can simply make enemies chase you to this point, where they will turn around, and then you can hit them in the back with no danger. If you're not interested in doing the cheesy thing, you can strafe around enemies till you see a spot to take a swing. This will of course be more dangerous and will lead to many deaths. Combat is really not the reason you play the Kingsfield series. Also, as you go through this game, you'll repeatedly find yourself in a situation where you know where you need to go. But there is some reason that you cannot go in that direction right now. And this starts right at the beginning. There's a door that you need to go through, but spider webs are preventing you from accessing it. And you can't physically attack these spider webs for some reason. So you have to get your hands on some fire so you can burn the webs down. And the game does this repeatedly in different ways. You need to find a key that's gone missing. You need to shut down a contraption that will kill you if you get too close to the door you need to go through. You need to restore heat to a workshop to melt ice, because apparently your fire magic is good enough to burn spiderwebs, but not quite up to the task of melting ice. As you continue through the game, you'll notice each area has a distinct look, and each area will also have distinct enemies. Early on, it's mostly animals and the occasional zombie. Then you start encountering humans that have apparently been possessed by something. Then you start encountering more strange things, like these totally not xenomorphs right here. Or these early versions of the snake men you'd encounter in Dark Souls and Elden Ring. There are a lot of interesting things to see in this world. It does a far better job of communicating the desolate feeling it's going for than the earlier Kingsfield titles. And part of that is due to graphics, as the first three were of course on PlayStation 1. But sadly, none of the Kingsfield titles are available on modern hardware currently. But we are not without hope, as PlayStation 1 and 2 titles have started to be released digitally on PlayStation 4 and 5. And while thus far none of the Kingsfield games have made this transition, another From Software title for the PlayStation 2 with very similar gameplay to the Kingsfield series, Eternal Ring, did get released. And while that game may not be part of the official Kingsfield series, it does say to me that there is at least a slight chance we might see Kingsfield the Ancient City, or any of the Kingsfield titles, show up one day on the PSN store. Of course, in an ideal world, I'd love to see a collection with remastered versions of all of the Kingsfield titles. Not just the PlayStation 1 and 2 games, there were 2 on PSP in Japan I'd love to see translated and brought over. But I know such happening is fairly unlikely at this point. Please do subscribe, comment, like, and tell your friends.